And Mike, did you see the story of the man born in America for 30 years, I think? Oh, here we go. This is a story that I found people, conservatives, liberals, evangelicals, just everybody shocked by this.
Yeah, and it's an undocumented Mexican immigrant who has called the United States his home for 30 years, deported yesterday. The emotional scene unfolded at a security gate in the Detroit Metropolitan Airport as Jorge Garcia, accompanied by 2 Immigrations and Customs Enforcement agents, said goodbye to his wife and 2 teenage children. The Detroit Free Press reports that 39-year-old Garcia was brought to the U.S. by a family member when he was 10 years old, and though he was facing an order of removal, since 2009, he received stays to remain in the U.S. under the Obama administration. However, due to the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, Garcia was ordered to return to Mexico last November. Garcia, who has his supporters, says he has no criminal record, pays his taxes every year, too old to qualify to stay in the U.S. under DACA, which only applies to undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. born after June 15th, 1981.
Mike, two teenage children, lived here for 30 years, brought here when he was 10 years old.
That is not the United States of America. No, that is not the United States of America.
And I wonder if they like those images out there to frighten people.
Well, in addition to that, what we just saw, what you just told us about, you wonder how many of these United States senators, especially people like Tom Cotton, how many United States members of the Congress, House of Representatives, how many of them have ever been to a citizenship ceremony?
Well, yeah.
And watch people literally in tears of joy with becoming United States citizens.
Make the cheap point here, which is that I would take any panel of recent African or Mexican immigrants and put them in a room and give them a civics test against the President of the United States, and I know which side I'd be betting on in that battle. But the more important thing here is the politics of this, right? Reince Priebus, back at the beginning of the 2016 cycle, when he was at the RNC, did this report, famously, that said, you know, the Republican Party's on a path to irrelevance if it can't get right with the rising sectors of the American electorate. Donald Trump comes along and threw cold water in the face of Reince Priebus and everybody else who believed that, and managed to eke out, but not losing the popular vote, winning a narrow electoral college majority in 2016, and said, hey, you know what? We don't need brown voters. We can get by with an aging white party. If Republicans don't see that Reince Priebus was right 4 years earlier, and that in the long run, these images, this posture that the Republican Party has is alienating itself with the, just mathematically speaking, the rising parts of the American electorate.
It's demographics. It's basic, simple demographics.
The Trump 2016 victory, relying on white, rural, older voters, is an anomaly. It's not like a new path for the Republican Party. You're not going to be a national party if you have everybody of color alienated from your party going forward. And these kinds of stories in the micro and the macro, we're going to shut the government down over DACA. All of this is just further cementing the notion among most non-white Americans that the Republican Party not just doesn't care about them, but is actively hostile towards them. And that is a path for political irrelevance for the Republican Party in the medium term, not to the long term, soon.
And I want to pick up on the no DACA, no deal that we talked about last block. The time to do this is now. And the time to do this is now because the President of the United States called together senators and started spewing out racist comments. The focus, don't do this 3 months from now. Do it now when the focus is now on the President of the United States making bigoted comments because he wants to keep out people who are not white, who are not from Norway, who may be highly educated, but may be brown or black. Now is the time for Democrats to stand up and have a spine. You know, Mika, we've been talking about how the Democratic Party has missed so many opportunities in the past. This is an opportunity they cannot pass. Let me say it from a former Republican. I would shut the government down in a second, and I would pound Democrats if they were in this position. If I were in Congress in their position now, every day I'd take to the floor. Everybody would take to the floor. We would talk about the president's racist comments for 24 hours a day. We would flood the cable news channels, talk about it 24 hours a day. We would make this an issue of morality. We would show those images. We would show images of other family members being dragged away from their children. We wouldn't be talking about Mexicans streaming across the border illegally. We would be talking about 40-year-old people that were being ripped out of the arms of their teenage children. This is Mr. Trump's America. This is Paul Ryan's America. This is Mitch McConnell's America. No, we're not going along with this. No DACA, no deal. No humanity, no deal. We will not be compliant. Kevin McCarthy may spend tax dollars separating candies out that Mr. Trump likes. He can waste taxpayers' dollars. He can be compliant in this cruel and immoral age. We will not. That's a win. That's not only a win for this government shutdown debate, that's a win for 2018. They've got to show spine.
It would be a win for America. Coming up,